What are the best team building activities? I'm going to share with you 3 of my absolute favorites that work really phenomenally to build your team, to connect, create more cohesion and gel. They're really easy to facilitate. If you watch to the end, you will add these 3 to your toolbox and you will forever be a better connector, educator, and leader. I'm Chad Littlefield. Let's get into it. First activity I'm going to share, I love because it involves a good amount of movement, which engages the brain. When we move, people have to vote with their feet, and they have to use their prefrontal cortex, the part of their brain that gets them to think and reason, connect, and turn on, right, to wake up. Also, this first activity is really, really good about getting the right people into the right conversations, which I think ideally, team building, you'd walk in, like wave a magic wand, and you'd make all the right pairings and pair them to talk about all the right topics at the right time. Problem is that magic wand doesn't exist, but I really love this activity in replacement of such a wand. The second 2 activities kind of build on each other, but I think they're for every person that might have any level of resistance to the word team building or might get hives when they hear the word team building. I think these 2 exercises are particularly fantastic at building a connection, whether you've got a really introverted group or extroverted group. I get to work with some of the top universities and educators on the planet, helping them build their teams, helping facilitate team building. And so I've learned a ton of ways not to connect a group. These 3 ways that I'm going to share consistently and reliably work to build connections and create a stronger team. Activity number 1 is called comfort zones. So for all these activities, there are a bunch of variations, but here's the core of it. You've got 3 comfort zones, and oftentimes if I'm in person with a group, I'll actually map it out in a physical space. So I'll get some sort of rope or twine, or I've even used a hula hoop before, and set that down and designated that as our comfort zone. So this is where things are familiar, where things are certain, right? This is like we're on a couch watching the Discovery Channel, chilling. In that calm place, our heart rate is relatively low. And then I step outside of that place and I talk about how outside of our comfort zone, our heart rate might go a little bit up, right? Our palms may get a little bit more sweaty. We're definitely more alert, we're more present, but we're not, and then I walk all the way to the wall, touch a wall, and we're not in our comfort zone. So I usually designate the wall or the outer perimeter of wherever you are as panic zone. So we got comfort zone, stretch outside of that, a growth zone or learning zone, and then the third zone is panic zone. And really simply, at the core of this activity is you choose a series of prompts that will be both fun and engaging and connect to the purpose of why you're actually there. To read off to the group, and you invite them to move around through the space based on where they would be. So for example, imagine if, so I would be saying this to a group, imagine if a 6-foot black rat snake came swirling by you and brushed up against your leg. Where would you be on this spectrum? From comfort zone to learning growth zone to panic zone. And so everybody moves, you've got your snake people in the middle and your snake phobia people stuck to the walls on the outside. Now often I would use an example like that because it's just really polarizing, creates this emotional intrigue. And then you can choose a series of prompts from that. So you might say, stand where you would be if you had to have a really difficult conversation with your boss. Somebody below you, but your boss. If you're an education group, I might use a prompt like, stand where you would be if you had a kid absolutely lose it and pick up a chair and go to throw it across the room. Where would you be in that moment? Depending on where you teach and who you teach and how you teach, right? People are gonna spread out in different ways. Now, there is one important element to this. I may not do this first. I might do some sort of a icebreaker connection before content activity first, because I want psychological safety to be really high when we do this. I want people to feel comfortable standing where is true for them, not where they think their boss wants to see them standing. So really, you just want people making honest choices, because my favorite element to this exercise is using it as a way to get people, the right people, into the right conversations. So my favorite part about this exercise is that you can use geography to get people in the right conversation. So I can say any prompt, or anytime there's a strong dynamic that shows up in the group, I can say pair up with somebody who's furthest away from you right now and learn something from them. There's this narrative in our culture now that the world is so polarized. And I think this is an awesome opportunity to actually visually stretch out and see polarities in people's experience, and then get them to talk to somebody as far away as possible from that spectrum with the intention of actually learning something from them or connecting or finding out more about what lands them in that place. Now, I learned this exercise as comfort zones, but in theory, you can designate each of the 3 zones as anything you want. So a variation of this activity, which is kind of like a bonus 4th team building exercise, is spectrums. So from this wall to this wall, or if you're virtual, on a scale of 1 to 10, can you just share where you're at or move to where you would be if this wall represents deeply, deeply introverted and this wall represents deeply, deeply extroverted? And if you're somewhere in the middle, you can be somewhere in the middle, but if you lean toward one or the other, be in that place. Now I might define introversion, extroversion. That's a really great one to kind of parse out. I see a lot of people taking like the DISC profile or Strengths Finders or Myers-Briggs with the goal of learning more about each other as a team, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's like a 250 item questionnaire that you have to take. Like that doesn't feel very fun to me. And yet when you break down personality dynamics or different group dynamics on spectrums like this or across comfort zones, it makes all of that stuff come alive, and it allows you to start a bunch of conversations with a group that you otherwise wouldn't use. Now you can feel free to Google like comfort zones activity prompts, and you'll find a bunch of samples that you can have. Second best team building exercises utilizes We Connect cards. I'm a little bit biased because I created this deck, but there is a free digital version in the link below. And it's utilizing the cards, 60 questions on them. We spent over 2 years researching this specific set of 60 questions to find the set of questions that accelerated connection and trust as quickly as possible and as comfortably as possible. And the questions are broken into categories, like self-reflection, questions that are fun and light, and blue questions are a little bit deeper. And so one of my absolute favorite exercises to do with this, I call Remove 60. And it's where I actually lay out all 60 of these questions on a table, or you could take just a snapshot of them, a picture of them, and screen share it if you're in a virtual context, and invite the group to remove or cross out every single question that they feel confident that they could answer with everybody else in that group. And the reason I love this so much is I have never, even doing this with a group that's worked with each other for a minimum of 5+ years, I have never had any group remove more than 5 questions. So you've worked with someone for 5 years. So you're talking about building your team, adding new strands of connections, new communication shortcuts, new knowledge about each other and who you are and how you work. And the max I've ever seen anybody do out of all my clients is remove 5 out of 60 questions. So there's a challenge for you. Do this with your group and see if you can remove more than 5. You could literally leave it at that and just say, what does this mean? As a debrief to unpack and spark some discussion about what that means. And you might invite the group to set an intention around it, right? Are they okay with that? Are they okay with setting there, which could be totally fine? Or would they like to be able to remove 10 questions, right? I mean, 60 might be overboard, right? We might not get any work done if we just answer 60 questions. But the third activity that I want to share with you, Curiosity Ping-Pong, and beyond just being a really great activity for team building, it creates a culture of team building. Oftentimes I think we think about team building quite inefficiently. We think about it like every quarter or once a semester or once at the beginning, we do this big team building thing. Or like people are feeling disconnected, so like we just do this team building thing and inject some team building into whatever context you've got going on. And that drives me a bit crazy because it's kind of like saying, I would really love to lose 10 pounds, but I only have Monday free. So I'm gonna go to the gym all day and I'm gonna come back 10 pounds lighter. And then I'm gonna go back to my pizza, Twinkies, etc. Ooh, that sounds really good right now. Curiosity Ping-Pong allows you to weave a culture of team building throughout. So essentially what it is you choose a question. It doesn't have to be, doesn't have to be from this deck, but you might choose a question like, how did you learn your most important lesson in life? And you have people respond in a quick way where everybody can speak at once. So either in the chat or they write their response down on a sticky note, or they get into small groups, they think about their response a little bit, and then they just whip around really quickly and share it. And then the rest of the exercise, your only direction is inviting them as a group to follow their curiosity. You can do this in pairs, you can do this in triples, or even small groups. And you're inviting people to simply listen to how people answer that question and follow their curiosity. And then whatever response they give from that question, follow your curiosity again, follow your curiosity again, and actually continue chasing your curiosity down the rabbit hole. Now what you'll find in the beginning is that it's kind of like ping pong. There's this back and forth that happens where curiosity is kind of bouncing around, but eventually You uncover this track, you find the rabbit hole, and you're like, ooh, let me dive down this, let me keep diving down this, and it creates a really memorable moment for a group. And really good team building is not forgotten. It actually creates the inside joke, it creates the moment, it creates the memory for a group that they can then stand on and look back and say, that shared experience was awesome. I know this about you, we share this in common, or this was something totally outlandish that I had no idea was even possible, and now I feel really connected to who you are as an individual. I want the best for you, etc., which is ultimately the point of team building. If you love these and want them in your brain and in your team, there's a link to download our free connection toolkit right below, and you can also purchase the deck and we will ship it to your location. I'm Chad Littlefield, have an awesome day.